Good afternoon and welcome. Why not say, as always, good evening to all of those who will be connecting with us later on as well. But welcome to this amazing Saturday when we come together to connect with one another. Still streaming online, connecting online, but we hope that we can send our warm hearts, prayers, and connections to your home as well. And most importantly, to our hearts, right? Although we're connecting this way, it's we always like to not only welcome but also thank you for allowing us in your life, in your environment, which is so important to all of us. Today we have an amazing talk with Alba, but before we pass the word to Alba and our formal introduction, let us read a passage as usual of the book Happy Life by Joanna de Angelis. This is the old version of the book, so it's page 139. In its message, if I can get this right, 118. When Joanna de Angelis says, accept people just as they appear to you. This arrogant man that you do not like is sick and may not know it. This recalcitrant gentleman isn't happy with himself, within himself. The demanding acquaintance has nerve problems. Some who appear proud are merely suffering from conflicts that they try to hide. Others, who appear to be indifferent, are experiencing terrible fears. The earth is a great hospital of souls. The person who sees you just superficially has no way of analyzing you correctly. Let everyone be what they are and not what they want them to be. This way, dear friends, let us join our mind and our hearts to pray together. As we are praying, we invite everyone to perhaps repeat the words, or if you want to say your prayer, as we are saying as well, if you wanted to redirect the words to someone or to a group of people, or perhaps the unstable areas of the planet right now are, let us do so. But the thing is to intentionally be connected to this moment. So this way, we ask our dear Creator to guide us all during this moment, during this connection that we have established with one another. All the preparations that we have done yesterday, today, to be here together, to allow ourselves to engage with the speaker today, to engage with the message, and to truly exemplify in our hearts so we can then share with others and to put into practice what we have learned or what we have been reminded throughout this moment. Let us ask that you guide the heart and mind of Alba Morales today, who will speak with us about love. We also give ourselves a moment of silence so we can send this vibration to our brothers and sisters who are in need, those who are in despair, those who are going through the difficulties of war within themselves, internally, as well as the wars of the external, the fights, the difficult moments that have been created and have been sparked around the world. Let us then send them this good vibration in a moment of silence. Dear friends, we're thankful for this opportunity, for this moment, and to be with you, Master Jesus, and with the guidance of our Creator. We open this meeting, and so be it. So, as we were saying, dear friends, we are here with Alba Morales today, who will be speaking about a love story. It's important to remind ourselves that in moments of difficulties that we're going through, still going through the consequences of the pandemic, the different situations that we have been through. we have a moment like this in our lives, right? To talk about love, to talk about the things that really enriches our hearts and our minds and allows us to keep going as well. So, with no further ado, Alba, please take it away so we can join the our hearts and minds in this endeavor here. Thank you.
Sure, Leito. Hello, everyone. Hello, friends. We are so happy to hold spiritual hands through this virtual session. And today we are going to share a love story from the book 50 Years Later by the spirit Emmanuel, who was the spirit guide, or Francisco Candido Xavier, who was the renowned medium. And we want to say that this is a very dear book to our heart, to our soul. It is so rich and beautiful. And we want to compare the story, the real story of 50 years later, as a beautiful bouquet of roses. Let us put it red roses. That is, has a beautiful smell, perfume. That is the narrative of Emmanuel, his prose, as sometimes there are poetry in the book, and also in its beauty, because there are several stories in the book. We're going to follow the main character, who is this incredible woman named Celia at the time. But for tonight, we are going to take one petal of that gorgeous bouquet of roses, and we're going to follow and to see what happened with that petal. With this comparison, what we're trying to say is we took just a little tiny bit of information. We took some highlights of the main line of the story, but there is much more. So, as Leo always does in his presentations, we invite you to read the book. It's worthy of our time. So, in this first slide, we see this couple, and we're going to learn what kind of love we're talking about here. But just to honor the main characters of the book, is the story is going to be situated in the 2nd century of Christianity, around the year 131 in Rome. And it is about Celia and Cyrus. But before we go there, let us have some introduction, some food for thought, so we can have like in theater or a presentation, a play in theater. We have the background that is going to help the characters to come alive. That's what we're going to do with this first reading. So we choose 1 Corinthians 13. This is the letter, the first letter that Paul wrote to the Corinthians, and it is entitled The Way of Love. And we took this from the English Standard Version. So let us read together what Paul was communicating to the Corinthians at the time. If I speak in tongues of men and of angels, but have no love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers, mediumship, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have no love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have no love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoice with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endure all things. Love never ends. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now, faith, hope, and love abide these three, but the greatest of these is love. And we underline and put in bold letters those passages that resonate in our heart. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Faith, hope, and love abide these three, but the greatest of all is love. Friends, let us keep the words of Paul of Tarsus in our mind, especially in our heart, as we prepare to listen to the story, the true account of Celia and Cyrus. And we are going to start by presenting the characters. Who is who in the book? So when we present all the characters, we're going to stop for about 30 seconds if you want to take a peek, a picture, so then we can follow the story and we don't get lost. We're going to start with the spirit author, Emmanuel. Emmanuel clarifies in the introduction of the book that in his previous existences in the book 2000 years ago, he was the Roman senator Publius Lentulus, very arrogant and aristocratic man of the time. Then he reincarnates. He have a very quick reincarnation, and after that one, he reborn as a slave Nestorious. So in 50 years later, we are going to find Emmanuel as Nestorious. Let us start with that. Emmanuel also clarifies that there is another character from the book 2000 years ago in 50 years later. It is his good friend Pompilius Crassus. He also was a patrician at the time. He was a very good friend of Publius Lentulus. And currently, in our current story, he's going to be, or he is, in his reincarnation, Elvidius Lucius, censor of Rome. Elvidius Lucius. And then we have his wife, Alba Lucinia, and their kids, Helvidia, which is the oldest daughter, and Celia, the youngest daughter, and is the main character of the story. Along with them, we have Caius Fabricius, which is Helvidius' friend and is going to be Elvidia's husband. So at the beginning of the book, they are just friends, a friend of the family, and by mid of the book, Elvidia and Caius Fabricius get married. So Caius Fabricius become Elvidius' son-in-law. And we have Cneius Lucius, which is Helvidius' father, and obviously Celia's grandfather. Cneius Lucius, he occupied a prominent position in the Roman Empire. And he was very respected among everyone, among patricians and among the people of Rome and the empire. He was a very wise, gentle, and fair man that at this moment of the book, who was already retired, and he has this beautiful house very close to the Thamesis, which is the river that goes through Rome. And we have other characters. Claudia Savina, which was Elvidio's former lover. This happened when they were teenagers. They have this very quick and passionate relationship that didn't end in anything because Claudia Savina didn't have a social position in the Rome society at the time. She just was a person of the town, and therefore Elvidio Lucius couldn't marry her, and he married a patrician who was Alba Lucinia. And then we have Lollius Ubiquus, which is Claudia's husband and is the Roman prefect. So Claudia Sabine, she escalates positions by being deceitful and not being a very good person, and she ended up occupying one of the most prominent positions in the Roman society at the time as the wife of the Roman prefect. Then we have Ateria or Hateria. This was like a servant, is Claudia's accomplice, and is a servant in Helvidius Lucius' home. And finally, we have Cyrus. Cyrus was a slave and was Celia's love. So let us take here like 30 seconds if you want to take a picture of this slide, so then we don't get lost in the story. Okay? All of them, they are going to be entangled in this story. Okay, let us continue. Let us start. So we like to visualize what Emmanuel is narrating here because he is a great writer and he describes the cities, the different cities that is mentioned in the book with such exactitude that we wish we could draw a map, especially of Rome, of the streets, and the most important places in Rome, etc., etc. But for our understanding of the story, we're going to have 3 different scenarios. The first one, if you see here, we're going to start in Judea. Okay, so let us remember, this is the 2nd century of the Roman Empire, and everything that is in the dark orange belongs to the Roman Empire. So we're going to start in Judea, in a small town very close to Jerusalem. From them, the second scenario is going to be in Rome, where the story takes interesting flavor. We don't want to spoil it. And we are going to end the story, across the Mediterranean Sea. We're going to travel to Alexandria. Actually, it is a place close to Alexandria. So we have these 3 scenarios, and we're going to start in Judea. So in this small town of city, Smyrna, Judea, we find this Roman family, the Elvidius Lucius home. And his home was designed, he has this design of it's a mix of between Roman and Greek architecture. At the time, Romans were admirers of the Greek arts and architecture, so they start incorporating these in their buildings and in their day-to-day living. So here we have Elvidius Lucius. his wife Alba Lucinia, his two daughters Elvidia and Celia. And Elvidius Lucius is preparing himself, the whole family, to go back to Rome after so many years of serving the empire in this small city. However, he is waiting for his good friend Caius Fabricius. Caius Fabricius, remember, he is going to be his future son-in-law. So Caius Fabricius is entering Smyrna with all the pomp and all the honors that a Roman officer could receive. So he enters the city, and Emmanuel describes that he is going in this litter that was carried by humans, isn't it? But slaves, and they were carrying the litter, and he was very dignified there. And behind the litter, it was this man with a very attractive figure, around 40 years old, but because of his dress and his kind of sadness on his face, he didn't look like he has the same stature of the Roman officer. It seems like he was a slave. Anyways, Caius Fabricius arrives to Helvidius' house. They have a great encounter there. They start interchanging news about what happened in Judea recently. Actually, in Jerusalem, it was the very last revolution of the Israel, the Jewish people trying to get independence from the Roman Empire. They couldn't do it, as we know in history. So this is a moment in which Romans, they feel very solid about all the cities and countries that they have been dominated. And it's like some sort of moment of peace. And that's why Helvidius is going back to Rome. So after interchanging news, because Caius Fabricius is Elvidius Lucius' friend, Elvidius Lucius confessed to him a concern. He's concerned that his youngest daughter, Celia, is suffering from an illness, or she is not the same. Celia, it is a beautiful patrician young lady around 18 years old, with all the beauty of the Roman girls at the time, very delicate, very wise, very educated. She devotes her love for the home, for her father and her mother. He's very obedient and subtle in her manners. However, by being in Judea, in Smyrna, she is exposed to the crazy teachings of this Israeli man, Jesus. Elvidius Lucio can understand why his beloved child is now spending hours and hours praying to a God that he doesn't know, why his child is now interacting with the slaves as if they were her friends and treating them fairly and with kindness and compassion. He is truly puzzled about the transformation of Celia, although she always had this mellow character, but now she's talking about that life after life. Now she's talking about this craziness of we don't have only one life, we have different lives and we need to progress. So he decides, and he is confiding this to his friend Caius Fabricius, that once they return to Rome, Elvidius Lucius is going to talk with his father, Cneius Lucius, and is going to let Celia in his house so the grandfather can take her out of this madness. Because Sennius Lucius, it is a good Roman, and he honors the Roman gods and the Roman good customs. So Elvidius Lucius is confident that his father is going to take Celia out of this madness. Caius agree and say that probably this is something temporary, that don't forget they're kids of these days, they're young, etc., etc. And they change the conversation, and Caius Fabricius can't wait to tell Elvidius Lucius that he brought a great gift to him. So Elvidius Lucius is eager to see what was the gift. When Caius Fabricius called the man that was walking, actually running behind the leader. And here we have the man. His name is Nestorious. Let us remember, Nestorious was the Senator Publius Lentulus, and he is Emmanuel. So Caius Fabricius is very happy on presenting Nestorius as a gift. But that moment, Alba Lucinia and the two daughters enter the living room and join the conversation. And they're kind of like questioning why this guy was standing up in that corner of the room. So Caius Fabricius starts talking about great things about Nestorius. It is a jewel that he found in Jerusalem. And Nestorius, it is a slave that is different than anyone. Is very wise, is very quiet, but is very knowledgeable. He knows Roman history better than any of the teachers of masters in Rome. He knows the Greek authors, and he is very well educated. So Caius Fabricius thought that this will be a great gift for Elvidius' daughters, so the daughters can continue their education with a tutor at home. Caius Elvidius Lucius was very happy, and he applauded the gift, and he said, yes, I want to take him. However, Alba Lucinia was like, what do you mean? Oh, he could be a very knowledgeable guy, but I have like two teenagers, daughters, very young and beautiful. How is the moral character of this guy? And the two guys, Elvidius and Caius, they were really feel embarrassed about the situation. However, Caius Fabricius gave his word to Alba Lucinia that Nestorius was a very venerable, honorable man, that he will respect her home and her daughters up to the most. So then, Alba Lucinias just keep thinking and approach her husband and whisper something in his ears. And then her husband kind of nod with her head. And Alba Lucinias says to Nestorius, our daughters will avail themselves of the intellectual assistance of a free man. Nestorius, our house declares you free forever. So at the time, any patrician could free their slaves just by their word. For Alba Lucinia was very important that this new servant, this new slave that is going to be interacting with her daughters on a daily basis was a free man. Because Alba Lucinia, first of all, she believes in freedom, although the customs of the time was to have slaves. And also she thought that a man of his intellectual stature must be free. And then she asked Nestorius about his story. He said that he was born in Ephesus, Greece, and his background was from Judea, from Israel. And he moved with his wife and his little son to Greece. Then in Greece, the Roman Empire in this city invade the city. His wife dies. Nestorious was taken as a slave, and his young boy, around 10 years old or so, is also taken as a slave. And Nestorius never got to know again what happened with his son. From Greece, he's taken to Rome under the service an eminent patrician or senator at the time, and is there under the this household that he started learning and reading because his master was a benevolent master that allowed him to learn and to read, and therefore that's the way he got his education. So after Alba Lucinius declares his freedom, he very humbles, and actually Emmanuel narrates. Then, to the surprise of all, Nestorius rose from his corner and walking to the center of the room, he knelt before his benefactors and humbly kissed Alba Lucinia's feet. Nestorius at the time, very knowledgeable man, very humble man. And then the whole family moved to Rome. So we're going to our second scenario. They start a new life in Rome. They were missing their friends and their customs. However, the family, the Lucius family, spent several years in a province, like let's see it in the countryside, that when they arrive to the life in Rome, they are overwhelmed, especially Elvidius Lucius and Alba Lucinia, by the social responsibilities that they have. They need to show up to Adrianus. Adrianus is the emperor of the time. So Adrianus, he loves to have these banquets and parties and meetings. And Elvidius Lucius and his wife, they need to show up to these social events, even if they don't want it, even if they don't like it. They were feeling uncomfortable by the deceiving situations. Nobody was honest and genuine over there. Everybody was trying to escalate positions and the gossiping. And we know how it was at the time, isn't it? So aside from that, Elvidius Lucius, he goes to his father, Cneius Lucius, here he is, and explained to him his concerns about Cilia. Cneius Lucius listened with an open heart and mind and say, okay, my son, bring my granddaughter to my house and I will take her out of these crazy ideas of being humble and charitable. Being humble, charitable, and kind, there were three words considered not as a moral values, but as a weakness in a person by the Romans in the time. So they were really concerned about Cilia acting in that way. So Cilia goes to her grandfather, and they just get well together. And the grandfather says to Cilia that he's there to listen to her. He expressed that her father is concerned and he wants to help her, but she needs to tell him the whole truth so he can understand what is going on in her heart and in her mind. And he is very genuine about it. So Cilia, she feels comfortable with her grandfather, and they have a connection that they couldn't understand at the time. So she starts, first of all, expressing with such a mature manner for an 18-year-old about the teachings of Jesus, about love, about fraternity, about solidarity. She actually has some scrolls with fragments of the gospel. So she reads from some fragments to her grandfather and she starts doing reflections. It is a long conversation that lasts at least 5 or 6 hours of Celia pouring out her heart because she say, "Grandfather, I cannot be the same. I got to know these teachings and they're resonating deep inside of my heart. I cannot be different. And I know my family, it is putting me aside and is not understand me at all, but I rather prefer to suffer their indifference than to renounce to my beliefs." Senius Lucius, smart guy, he was by the end of his reincarnation, he wasn't feeling well, and he, before the family came to Rome, he started having this uncomfortable situation with the beliefs of the Roman gods. He wasn't convinced at all now. He was longing for something new. His spirit was telling him that it must be something else. So when Celia comes to this encounter, actually feels that void in Senius Lucius' heart, and he immediately connects with Jesus' teachings. However, as a intellectual man, he asks Celia to lend him the scrolls, the writings from the Gospels, because he wants to study them very deep. And she does that. And then they continue the conversation. And she say, "How you got to know this?" She say, "Well, when we were in Judea, in Smyrna, we have different slaves. So I started listening to them, and also I was surprised by their joy and happiness, even though they were slaves working very hard. So I was invited and started attending these meetings in which the gospel was explained. And I was taken with one of the slaves. His name is Cyrus. He's about 2 years older than me. And then we start having these very long conversations, walking through the fields of Smyrna, uh, sitting under a tree, just interchanging all this spiritual information. And Celia says it changed and transformed my heart. And moreover, I fall in love with Cyrus. Senius Lucius was in shock how a patrician could love a slave, but he didn't express this. He wanted his granddaughter to really pour out everything. So she continues. So Cyrus corresponded her love. However, Cyrus told her that it would be impossible for them to fulfill their human love or their romance. He was a slave, she was a patrician, and this one ended up well. And he also told Celia that if their sacrifice in this lifetime, this love, they will be rewarded in heaven with a much bigger love. And Celia understood. So Cyrus, he was also well educated in other philosophies and religions, because with his previous master, he was taken to the region of the Ganges or India. And over there, he learned about the reincarnation. And over there, he learned the direct connection between a human, a spirit, and God. And then he was moved to Judea, in which he got to know by first Christians firsthand, some Christians, They were descendants of Christians that follow apostles, that follow Jesus. So he got to know also Jesus' teachings, and for him, it was the answer for his life. And he embraced his teachings, and he felt the necessity to spread the good news to everyone, and that is why he invited Celia to these meetings. Well, everything is going very well, isn't it? However, one day the family, Elvidius Lucius family, they went to their summer visit and they took Cyrus with them. Because Cyrus was a man that was helping not only with the house, but also was helping Elvidius Lucius with his business, paperwork and everything. So they went to their summer visit, and the parents, Celia's parents, they start noticing that these two are spending too much time together, just walking and talking. One day, the family decide to go in a boat trip. The three ladies of the house and Cyrus, he was the one who was, paddling. When all of a sudden it came a big wave in the lake and turned the boat with such a bad luck that Celia fall and she started drowning. So without hesitating, Cyrus, he just throw himself in the water, hold Celia, and take her out of the water. And everybody was really, really pleased by Cyrus' attitude. So they give him even more opportunities in the home, like he was almost like a family member. And because of his heroic act, they give Cyrus their freedom. However, there is always a however. The manager of the house, he was jealous about all this situation. He was sneaky and he started following the two lovebirds. He passed this news to Elvidius Lucius. And Elvidius Lucius, he felt betrayed. So without hesitating, he just wanted to kill Cyrus, but by dishonoring his house. He thinks Celia is also being dishonored, but it is not. It was a platonic relationship. So Alba Lucinia again intervened and say that violence and death won't bring anything good to their family. So Elvidius Lucius, he changed his mind and decided to exile Cyrus without the opportunity of saying bye to Celia. So Cyrus have a brief moment to see her in front of everybody, and he said to her, "For those who love each other throughout the sacrosanct bonds of the soul, there are neither prejudice nor obstacles in space and time." He is telling Celia, "We're going to meet again, my love. Therefore, we will continue to love each other while we wait for the light of the Lord's kingdom." And he left. And Celia never ever knew about him. Since that day, her heart was broken. And she cried and weeps in her grandfather's arms. Unconsolable, her grandfather understands her. And he said to her, "My child, I wish your father could listen to you and understand what was going on in your soul and in your mind. And instead of trying to change her, Sennius Lucius embraced her. And since that day, Sennius Lucius secretly embraced Christianity." And we're going to stop here, make a pause, and we are going to see other characters in the story. Okay? So we have Lollius Ubicus and her disciple wife, Claudia Savina. Lollius Ubicus and Claudia Savina, they didn't love each other. It was a marriage by convenience. She was gorgeous, beautiful. She learned the etiquette of the woman at the time, and he was smart, ambitious. He just wanted to have power and money, but they didn't love each other, really. And Claudia Savina, she never forget Elvidius Lucius for abandoning her when they were teenagers. And she got to know that the family was coming to Rome, and the family actually was looking for new slaves and servants. So she has a accomplice, an old woman called Ateria. Ateria. And this old woman was serving her for different situations, you know. So she tells Ateria to go to the Lucius home, in which one of the good friends, Tullia, was assisting Alba Lucinia to interview and to get servants and slaves for the household, with the idea or the second intention of get to know the inside life of the Lucius home and somehow figure out how to regain Elvidius Lucius' love. In the other hand, Lollius Ubicus was fond of Alba Lucinia. He always loved her, but he chose Elvidius Lucius. So we have this marriage that they have feelings for the other marriage. Let us put it that way. Claudia Savina still has feelings for Elvidius Lucius. Lollius Ubicus has feelings for Alba Lucinia, but more than feelings, it was lust and passion. They thought it was love, but it wasn't. So Ateria, it is a very sneaky person. She didn't serve really anybody. She was serving herself. She just wanted the money. So she follows Claudia Savine instructions. Claudia Sabine's, once Arteria started passing information to her, she started creating this plot in her mind with the help of a sorcerer. And she gets this poison that makes people to fall asleep very deeply. So Claudia Sabina, in her twisted mind, she hates Alba Lucinia, so she decides to ask Arteria to one night, and we're going to stop here. Elvidius Lucio, he was in Rome, but he was traveling in and out. So in one of Elvidius Lucio's travels, he asks Arteria to give Alba Lucinia the poison, so she falls asleep very deeply. Then asks Arteria to go to one of the most poorest neighborhoods in Rome, to a column called the Lactarium Column. Lactarium, it has to be with the breastfeeding. And it was a custom in the city that all the babies that mothers, they don't want it, they just put the babies over there. They just leave them as things. So unscrupulous people, they took the babies to sell them as slaves. You know, they took the babies, and when they grew up, when they were 18 years old, they start selling the babies as slaves. Some of the babies just died there. But it was the custom, like anybody could take the baby as a shopping for apples in a grocery store. Ateria followed Claudia Savina directions. So she goes very late at night to the lactarium column. There is a group of babies. So she chooses one baby from there. The baby that looks more patrician, and takes the baby to the Lucius family home. And we're going to stop here. So let us remember, Claudia Savina is plotting something, okay? But we are going to see what is going on with other characters. So then there is a tragedy. And here is the Elvidius Lucius family. They are living their life in Rome. They are doing everything that they need to do and was expecting from them in Rome. Nestorious was a free man. He was still serving Elvidius Lucius' home as a teacher for the girls, and also he was helping Elvidius Lucius with his office and all the official paperwork, etc. However, in his free time, Nestorius used his free time for his own things and necessities. It just happened that Alba Lucinia was concerned about Celia, because Celia continued very strong, expressing his ideas that were contrary to the Roman customs. So Alba Lucinia confided in her friend Tullia, the one who select the household people, and she said, I don't know, I'm thinking that I need to go and see one of these meetings and see what is going on. At the same time, let us remember Elvidius Lucius, he was traveling because of work. So Lullius Ubiquus, Claudia Savina's husband, he's taking advantage of Elvidius Lucius' absence, and he's visiting Alba Lucinia every day with his very bad intentions, insinuating to her and being very low. Alba Lucinia is feeling the pressure. She's feeling ill. She doesn't know how to reject him. He's the proctor, the prefector of Rome. This guy has business with Alba Lucinia's father. So she doesn't know how to say no. It was a difficult situation for her. However, she's firm. She believes in her marriage and her love for Elvidius Lucius, and she's not going to dishonor her family. She's concerned, though, by Celia, because maybe Lollius Ubiquus is going to start bullying, seducing her daughter. And this is going on for about a year, because these traveling expeditions, they didn't took 1 month or two, they take years. So Elvidius Lucius wasn't around the home. This is happening at the same time when Claudia Savina is plotting this situation. So Alba Lucinia starts feeling ill. And one night, the night that they agreed they are going to the Christian meetings, Alba Lucinia, she didn't feel up to the task. So Tullia said, okay, I'm going with Celia. So Alba Lucinia thinks it's a great idea. Alba Lucinia stays at home. And for Celia, it is the great opportunity of her life to go to one of the Christians' meetings far from Rome, in a cemetery. The two patricians wait for the afternoon. They change clothing into a more popular clothing, and they go together to the meeting. They are walking for several miles, and they start seeing people, going with the heads down and covering their heads because they don't want to be discovered by the Romans because death was the punishment. So they go there. There is the meeting. Everybody's singing. Everybody's joyful. And although nobody knew any of the people, for instance, Celia and Tulia, they felt welcome. They feel embraced. Then it was a man in the front of the audience, and he gives an announce. He announced that Polycarp was a benevolent old Christian that was giving explanations of the gospel and preaching. Why not? Uh, Near to Rome, and he was well known. So this man announced that he has been captured by the Romans, he's in jail, and he is waiting for death penalty. So everybody is taken in shock, everybody is with a sorrowful heart. However, they say, this man announced and say, well, since we are here, we can pray together, but we need someone who coordinates the meeting. Is there any volunteer? And by Celia's and Tullia's surprise, there is a man in the multitude that he raises his hand and he goes to the front and is Nestorious. Nestorious was using his free time to attend these secret Christians meetings. That was his secret life. Nestorious started the night with a beautiful prayer for Polycarp and everybody, and he started expressing these loving and enlightening words. Everybody was just enraptured by his tenderness and his passion for the new world and the kingdom of God that was about to start. At the end of the night, as we do in our Spiritist teachings meetings in person, everything was end, and some people approached Nestorius with questions, with concerns. He was the speaker of the night. So Celia and Tulia, they decide to wait. Tulia had the intention to ask him for a magical cure for Alba leukemia, because Tulia, he couldn't grasp the whole situation. This was her first time and she was kind of lost. Celia was in her jam. So she was so happy. She approached the story and she said, why you never told me that you were attending these meetings? And he said, I respect my masters and I honor Roman customs. So when I am at work, I am doing my work, and I will keep for myself my private life. They were having this conversation when a young man was approaching them. And it was, there was candles and this type of light. When the young man was closer to the group, Celia recognized him, and her heart was beating in her chest like never before. At the same time, Nestorius turned to see the man, and he also had a look of surprise. Well, we have here our dear Cyrus. So they have this re-encounter with Celia. They couldn't believe, they were very happy. And Nestorius re-encountered his son. Remember the 10-year-old boy who was lost forever, who was taken as a slave? Here he is Nestorius. And here we understand that nothing is by chance, that people that is around us is not by chance. There is a story and a connection among all of us. So let us continue for the sake of time. So everybody was joyful, except Tulia. He was clueless. She was confused. It was almost dawn, so let us see. The two women left the house. When the afternoon begins, they walk, they go to this place, and then there is a service that lasts all night, so it was almost dawn. So for safety, Nestorius and Cyrus, they walk the woman to Elvidius Lucius' house to make sure they are safe. Sirius and Celia, they make promises of seeing each other that later than day. And Nestorius and Cyrus, they were so excited with the rencounter and the conversation that they weren't tired. However, Nestorius, as a very responsible man, he asked a neighbor or someone to go to his office and say that he's going to take the day off because Nestorius was planning to accommodate his son Cyrus in his home. So they needed a day just, to move Cyrus in his home, and they were talking. Cyrus told his story to the father, Nestorius too. It was a very happy, joyful moment. Remember the mischievous man who works for Elvidius Lucius? Well, he's there. He followed Tullia and Celia. So he goes to the authorities and he said that Nestorius and Cyrus and Celia and Tullia, they were in that meeting. That day, in the morning, some Roman soldiers captured 300 people that attended the meeting the night before. Tullia and Celia, they are not captured at all because they are patricians, but Nestorius and Cyrus, they are captured and they are put into jail. They start a process of asking these 300 people that are in jail, ask them to neglect or to reject the Christian faith. Out of 300, only 35 didn't renounce to their faith. Among them, Cyrus and Nestorius. So for them, death penalty is awaiting them. Celia got to know. She runs to her grandfather with such pain in her heart. She wants to see Cyrus in this lifetime for the very last time. Cyrus Lucius, knowing the good intentions of her grandchild, he knows some people in the jail and he managed to go with Celia and see Nestorius and Cyrus. And here is one of the most beautiful conversations in the whole book, how Cyrus, in his minutes before death, is comforting Celia. And she is crying and understanding with her reason, but her heart is broken. So Cyrus, I'm sorry. So Cyrus encouraged Celia, encouraged her to continue with her life because death is not the end of life. And remember that love lasts forever. So Celia kisses Cyrus in his cheek. She also embraced through the bars to Nestorius, and they say bye. Celia and Sennius Lucius go to Sennius Lucius' home, awaiting for the afternoon to come when the sacrifice in the arena was scheduled. So here, Cyrus and Nestorious go to the arena, to the main sacrifice. The 35 people, feeling very close to the death of the body, going to the arena, they start singing, feeling inspiration from high above spirits. And Emmanuel is telling us that invisible radiations from the highest spirit realms vibrated through the arena. Selfless, resplendent beams reached out the fraternal hands to their companions who were leaving their perishable envelopes behind in their testimonies of faith through injury and suffering. And then Nestorious and Cyrus go back to the spirit realm. That afternoon, Celia, in her grandfather's house, was looking up to the sky, and when the 35 Christians were sacrificed, she saw 35 bright doves flying on the sky, going up. She turns to her grandfather and say, "It is done." Her grandfather embraced her, and the two of them pray for the 35 people that were sacrificed, especially Nestorious and Cyrus. And then, in one embrace, they start weeping. Two years has passed, and let us check the time. Okay. And we want to correct what we were saying about the timeline with Alba Lucinius. 2 years has passed. Senius Lucius is feeling weak. He's not in good health. He feels his last hours are ahead of him. So he asks one of his daughters, Elvidius Lucius' sister, to go and call Celia because he wants to see her before he goes to the spirit realm. Celia goes to her grandfather, and both of them, they have the last conversation incarnated. The grandfather promised Celia that he will watch over her, encourage her to continue with her faith. Even though she is being disdained by her family and society, everybody thinks that she's a math child, but he knows that she is following the true pathway, the pathway to true happiness. She holds his hand and kisses him and prays. When she's praying, she starts seeing beautiful spirits around her. Among them is Nestorious. Nestorious smiled to her and says that he is helping with the discarnation on Senius Lucius, and he is going to be all right. They are preparing a good place to him in the spiritual city that all of them are currently living. Celia, without moving her lips, and this is a conversation with her mind as she is a powerful medium, notice that Cyrus is not there among the bright spirits. So Nestorius tells her that Cyrus already reborn, and maybe in the future they are going to meet each other again. Celia is enraptured by the vision of seeing how the spirit of his grandfather is taken with the hands of these high spirits, is taking his grandfather to a different dimension in such a peaceful, smooth way that she doesn't feel any sorrow. She just feels confident and she feels faithful to the future ahead. This way, Senius Lucius discarnate. At the same time, is when Alba Lucinius give her Machiavellic plan. So here we are. Alba Lucinius is ill because of the mental darts and the low insinuation of Lollius Ubiquus, who just trying to take advantage of her. Celia noticed this situation as she's concerned that the mother, she cannot hear or listen her mother saying no or things of the sort. So in her mind, Celia starts doubting her mother, although she knows she's a very respectable, honorable woman. At the same time, Alba Lucinia starts suspecting that Lollius Uvicus is doing the same to her daughter, Celia. However, none of them, no Alba Lucinia, no Celia, talk about the situation. It's like both of them know what is going on, but they don't communicate between the two of them. That night, Elvidius is far, and Arteria go to the lactarium column and choose this baby. And, through the shadows of the night, she goes to Alba Lucinia's room. This baby was a newborn, still with all the signs that he just born in this world. And Arteria creates a scenario as if Alba Lucinia gave birth to the baby. The whole point was for Elvidius Lucius, who was arriving the next morning, to see this scenario and blame his wife. And the custom of the time, it was for the husband to kill the unfaithful wife. So that was in Claudia Savina's mind. So once he take Alba Lucinia out of the picture, she will come to comfort Elvidius Lucius. We'll see, always wicked people around us. And we we were one of them. Who knows? Well, Arteria, she didn't count that Celia was awake. She was praying. And Arteria didn't count with the baby crying. So Celia listened to this strange sound at home. So she just come to her mother's bedroom, and Celia could listen the steps approaching, but didn't have the time to do anything. So Celia opens the door and see this scenario, and she's in shock. And she thinks that her mother, or actually Lollius Ubicus, was successful in his approach. And now the mother is giving birth this baby. Celia knew what was going to happen if her father discovers the mother. Arteria, she didn't have any explanations. She said, oh, my master called me, she was sick, and now is this. And Celia thinks because the mother, she was feeling ill recently, and they were using these peplos and like a loose clothes, nobody noticed. So very quickly, Celia thinks that her mother deserves the love of her father and vice versa. So she's going to sacrifice herself for her mother. So she takes the baby. She asks Arteria to clean everything, to bring everything to normal. And she asks Arteria to keep quiet. So let's see, Arteria already received a very substantial payment from Claudia Savina. And now Celia is promising Arteria to give her all of his jewelry, except for a special little pearl that her father gave her. So Arteria, she serves whoever is paying her to say, okay, I will keep quiet. So she clean everything. Celia goes to her room and Arteria takes the jewels. However, Arteria, she promised Claudia Savina to go to her place and let her know of the situation. But Arteria, now with this change of a scenario, is very afraid of get out of the house because she knows as soon as she get out of the house, Claudia Sabine is going to kill her, literally. So Arteria stays at the Elvidius Lucius home. Next day is down. Elvidius Lucius come home. Alba Lucinia is just waking up for the deep support, the deep sleep that this drug, that Arteria gave her a drug to sleep, and she's kind of waking up. So he comes very happy, hello, my wife. And then Celia comes with the baby in her hands. Elvidius Lucius, it is in shock. Alba Lucinia can't believe her eyes. And Alba Lucinia feels in her motherly heart the pain because she couldn't protect her daughter against Lulius Obicus' approach. Immediately, without thinking, Elvidius Lucius, he feels this rage and he took his sword out and it is about to decapitate Celias when Alba Lucinius just scream and say no. One more time, Alba Lucinia is stopping her aggressive husband to commit a barbaric act. So Elvidius Lucius sent one of the servants to call his father-in-law that was a good friend of Lulius Ubiquus. This gentleman come home and he said that is the obligation of Elvidius Lucius to kill her daughter for staining the honor of the Lucius family. Alba Lucinia is weeping and crying and begging for the life of her daughter to spare her daughter's life. So Elvidius Lucius loves Alba Lucinia and it's hard for him to tell her no. So he decides that instead of killing Celia, she is going to be exiled forever from the home. And they decide that they are going to tell the society that Celia tragically died and they are going to do a funeral, and for them, Celia is going to be dead forever. Celia just have time to grab her baby or the baby in her arms. She say bye to her mother and she gets on the street and run and run and run. She gets to one of the poorest neighborhoods of Rome. She didn't know that it's already noon. She didn't feel she's thirsty and hungry. The baby is just quiet, sleeping. She just sits at one of the bridges that goes to this poorest neighborhood when a woman approached her and see the distress in the eyes of this young woman and invite her to her house. This poor woman with 4 kids, she used to wash clothes for the patricians. So she feeds Celia and the baby, give clothes to both of them, and Celia starts a very difficult journey. So here we are in the dangerous journey. We moved to Judea, to Rome, and now we are traveling to a place close to Alexandria, and our story is about to wrap. So bear with us. Celia started this dangerous journey. There is danger for a single beautiful woman at the time, and for a woman who literally never left her house. So she started this journey with like an in automatic uh, mode. She didn't know where to go. She just knew that she needed to get out of Rome. And she just feel inspiration. Take this road, go through this mountain, go to this place. But she was still in a state of shock. There is a long description of her journey in the book. However, we are going to choose one of the scenarios there in her journey. She's already far from Rome. She's heading to the Mediterranean by foot. She finds some people in her journey that helps her, and they identify themselves as Christians. And she's embracing this baby as her own, even though she just received it that night without knowing anything. So here is Celia in the mountains in Italy, mountains where there's still a lot of wolves, and it was very wild at the time. She didn't have food, she didn't have anything, and she was by herself. That night, she finds this cave, this they describe as a grotto. So she goes inside the cave and puts some branches and things to cover the entrance, and she starts hearing the wolves very nearby. And she was praying that the baby keep quiet, because if the baby start crying, wolves will find her. Night comes, and it is a very dark night. It is cloudy night. The moon is not there at all, and inside of the cave is dark. She cannot even see her very own hands. So she's feeling tired. She's feeling disheartened. She's feeling at the end of her rope. Although there is a little light that she has in her heart. So she decides to pray, fervently pray. And she is holding the baby who is sleeping very deep. And in her prayer, she starts seeing how the cave start being illuminated as for several lights or candle lights, and all of a sudden it's not dark, it is no night. And then when she could see clearly, it is her grandfather, Cneus Lucius, and he comes there to comfort her. And he says the following: Celia, whispered the loving and beneficent spirit, God bless you in the harsh torments of material life. Blessed are you who should sacrifice as if you had received a favorable command from the Master. Do not weaken in your most grievous hours, because among the flowers of heaven there is someone who accompanies you in your suffering and strengthens the fibers of your exiled spirit. Never feel forsaken, because we extend our fraternal hands to you from the beyond. All pain, my child, passes like a flash of lightning or the veils of fog melted by the sun. Only joy is perennial. Only joy reaches eternity. And she feels the comfort, and she holds the baby close to her heart, and she knows that that baby is her beloved, her love, Cyrus. She continues her journey. She goes to a town in which she finds old friend of her grandfather. As a matter of fact, Cneius Lucius, in these conversations, guides Celia to go to this town and ask for this specific gentleman who once was a Roman senator and then he became a Christian and therefore he was rejected by society. So now he's living like some sort of monastic life. He went to a place close to Alexandria, to a monastery, and he spent several years there. This specific gentleman has a daughter, and he is concerned about the moral destiny of her daughter, who lives in Rome, from party to party, and all the situations that we described before. So he decides to leave the monastery and goes and search for her daughter. With such bad luck, between quotations, that when he finds her daughter, she was also in the last hours of her incarnated life. So they have a rencounter and the daughter discarnates. He goes back to this town and he starts preparing himself also to discarnate. When Celia goes and knocks his door, and she identifies herself as Cneius Lucius' granddaughter, the gentleman embraced her. Celia spent several months there, and she tells him all his story, his struggles, and everything. They're having a relationship like a father and daughter. They were very close. Celia's taking care of the baby. So this man decides to give Celia the remaining of his money because he knows this carnation for him is very close to him. So he instructs Celia to take this boat to go to Alexandria, to walk about 30 miles from there and go to a monastery. However, she needs to transform herself because this is a monastery only for men. Therefore, she do that. She cut her hair and she dressed like a man. Unfortunately, days before she starts her journey to Alexandria, the baby, Cyrus, the light of Celia's eyes, discarnate. And for the second time in this reincarnation, Celia's heart is broken because she is far from her true love. So she starts the journey. She arrives to the monastery. She identifies herself with the name of Marino. Marino, the son of this gentleman, because this gentleman already created the story. He wanted to save his daughter, and he was planning to ask her daughter to transform or to look like a man. Celia has a new identity in Alexandria, in the monastery. The abbot didn't like her because the abbot, although he was a Christian, he started manipulating Jesus' teachings in such a way that the concept of reincarnation wasn't there. The concept of the multitude of inhabitants, planets wasn't there. And he started, turning the truth for his own convenience. Like that was the beginning of the foundations of Catholic Church, with all due respect. And Celia or Marino always had a kind word to the abbot and say, but abbot, Jesus said this, and that. And she talks with such an eloquence and such a love about Jesus' gospel that everybody thinks that she witnessed actually when Jesus was on planet Earth. She gains the favors of all the 30-something men over there. Celia's kind, Celia's sweet, Marino in this case. She never complains. So the bat, every day around 11 a.m. or so, they have this meeting with the other monks, and the bat preach the word. And say, Marino, at this time, always had something to say, very respectful, but to the point. So the bat got the idea to give Celia a new job. And he said, every day you need to go to the town and get groceries and actually like fruits and vegetables for us to prepare for lunch and dinner. She didn't complain. It was 30 miles from the monastery to the town and 30 miles from the town to the monastery. So sometimes, instead of doing this in one day, Celia spent the night in an inn over there and she started gaining friends in the little town. The innkeeper loved Celia, thinking it was Brother Marino, and the innkeeper has a daughter. The daughter falls in love with Marino. Obviously, Marino is not paying attention to this lady. This lady decides to have an adventure with a Roman soldier who took advantage of her and then left her and never come back. And obviously, this girl, around 20 years old, so gets pregnant. She hides her pregnancy from her father until she couldn't hide anymore. She has the baby. And then the father, very irascible, very shocked at the moment, say, who is the father of this creature? And the girl, instead of saying it was the Roman soldier, she says, it is Brother Marino. Oh boy. The innkeeper goes to the monastery and tells the abbot. The abbot thinks that he couldn't hear better news than that, because now he has a true reason to expel Brother Marino from the monastery. And Celia was far to know this situation. So the innkeeper decided to leave the child there, to leave the baby there. The abbot calls Celia and Brother Marino and say, okay, the innkeeper is accusing you of being this child's father. What do you have to say? Celia didn't say anything. And he said, I think you need to go now. Take your baby and leave the monastery. Celia knew it was serious. She didn't have any other place to go. If she goes out the monastery with the baby, it was sure death for both of them. She kneels, she begs, and asks the abbot to let her live in a small cottage, maybe something like this, outside of the monastery, taking care of a land that was full of weeds, but it wasn't taken care of. She said, I'm going to clean that land and I'm going to create a vegetable garden, but let me live there with the baby. So the abbot, he turned to the other monks and said, we're going to vote. And he was pretty sure everybody is going to vote against Celia. So we're going to vote and the group is going to decide. Well, actually, everybody voted that Celia or Brother Marino stays there. And the abbot couldn't believe, but he had to do so. So Brother Marino starts a new life there. She or he cleans this land with the help of the other monks. She starts raising the child. The child grows up to 10 years old. When he falls ill, let us remember this is Cyrus. So Celia is very tender and they have such a beautiful relationship. They talk about spirituality, but the child goes back to the spirit realm. Later in the book, we get to know that Cyrus have to have these very successive reincarnations because in previous lives he was a suicidal spirit and now he was ready to take care of that account. Celia creates a vegetable and a fruit garden. Celia creates a little school for the children around nearby the monastery. Celia decides every day to do the gospel at home at 6 p.m. And people from the town and from the surrounding areas, they were going there and feeling the comfort of Celia. Celia learned by herself, by inspiration, about the curative or healing characteristics of different herbs. So she helped also with the health, physical health of the people. One day, a mother in desperation brings her 5-year-old child with fever, very sick, begging to Brother Marino to give something to the child to heal him. Celia, she doesn't know what's going on with the child, but the only thing that she does is she places her hand on the head of the child and pray, giving a passes. And after the prayer, the child heals. No fever, nothing. The word go out. It spread the word that Brother Marino can heal. So people from the whole empire start going and visiting Celia and having these multitudinary gospels at home at 6 p.m. We actually, in a little parenthesis here and before we finish, we actually Google about the character and we find out that actually it was a Brother Marino that then it was transformed as a Saint Marina. And according to historians, instead of living in the 2nd century, she lived in the 5th century. But the characteristics that we are narrating here of a woman wearing man clothes are passing as a man is there. You Google and you will find out. Anyways, our characters in Rome, Virius Lucius, Alba Lucinia, they couldn't be happy anymore after Celia's situation, even though they were having everything that a person could want: position, fame, fortune. Alba Lucinia's health decay, very consumed by remorse. Arteria stays with them as a faithful servant. And after so many years, Arteria, being very old, asked her masters if she could go and pass her last days in her hometown with her children. And they say, okay. So months pass by, and Arteria goes back to Elvidius Lucius' house. And she demands to talk with Elvidius Lucius and Alba Lucinia. And everybody's like, hey, you're a servant. How come you demand? Anyways, they go because they appreciate her. They learn to love her. They truly believed she was very loyal to them. Arteria starts her story to them, asking for forgiveness because she has the intuition her last days on earth are coming and she needs to confess the truth. They were puzzled. Arteria says that she converted herself to Christianity and she needs to go and ask for forgiveness before she goes to the spirit realm. Then Arteria narrates all the truth about the situation of Celia, the baby, Claudia Savina, everything. Alba Lucinia enters in a shock and she enters in a coma-like situation. Everything happens very quick. Elvidio Lucius wants to kill Arteria, but he's concerned about his wife. So he calls for the doctors of the time. Nothing helps Alba Lucinia to get out of the coma state. Elvidio Lucius is prostrated in pain. Some other situations with his father-in-law and Claudia Savina and Lollius Ubicus is happening, a complete tragedy that we're not going to bring here. Anyways, Arteria left the home because nothing happened. When she was walking from Elvidius Lucius' home to her town, she was assaulted for two robbers, and they killed her, and they disposed the body on the Thamesis, and nobody knew what happened with Arteria. This was actually an opportunity for her, and as later on Emmanuel narrates, that she herself asked to the father to have a terrible death, so somehow she can repay all the evil that she did to others. Alba Lucinia passed away. Elvidius Lucius is desperate. He cannot find peace. Knowing the truth, he used his fortune to go through whole Italy seeking for Celia, and he couldn't find her. He goes back to his house with a aching heart. A friend of him come to visit him, and this friend, that was a patrician also, said that he is convert to Christianity and invite Helvidius Lucius to one of the meetings. Helvidius Lucius just go just because. He doesn't have any reason to live anymore. He hears the encouraging words of the speaker that night, and he starts feeling some hope in his heart, although he couldn't understand all this Jesus Christianity situation. His friend also mentioned to him that Elvidius Lucius should go to Alexandria to visit Brother Marino because he has healing powers. Isn't it? It's interesting. So Elvidius Lucius says, I don't have anything to lose. Let me go there. Elvidius Lucius goes to the monastery and finds Brother Marino. Brother Marino recognized his father. Celia recognized his father, but she decided not to reveal to him his new identity. Elvidius Lucius joins the gospel at home that day, and he humbly requests to stay with Brother Marino in the small hut that he was living. A whole patrician asked him for this. Celia allowed him to stay, and they spent a week or so in very enlightening conversations. Elvidius Lucius is putting his heart out to his daughter without knowing, seeking for direction, for inspiration. His life doesn't have any sense anymore. So Brother Marino advised him to go back to Rome and to do for other single mothers what he didn't do for her daughter when she was a single mother with a baby that wasn't her own, but it was a single mother. So Elvidius Lucius, he goes far and beyond of that. He sells everything that he has. He used his fortune to help single mothers with children, to feed them, to give them a shelter. He helps the ill and the sick. He goes to the poorest neighborhood of Rome and uses his fortune to help them to buy medicines. And he completely change his life. He felt that he wanted to go back one more time to see Brother Marino, to feel the comfort in his spirit. But he was feeling very, very ill. So he returns after a year or so to Alexandria and finds Brother Marino. He humbly asked Brother Marino if he could bless him because he knows his last days were approaching. Again, he said he wanted to see Celia and ask for forgiveness. This time, Celia decides to reveal her identity. She still have the little pearl that her father gave him where he was a teenager, as well the dress that she was using in that unfortunately morning of her exile. So she goes to another room in the hut and she changed her, monk clothes, and she dresses as herself and presents to her father. Her father couldn't believe what her eyes was seeing. At the moment, he couldn't talk, but in her heart, he felt the tender love of her daughter. And here is how Emmanuel narrates these last minutes of Elvidius Lucius on air. Celia says, Father, Jesus has heard our prayer from his kingdom of mercy. Here I am. I am your daughter. I have never stopped loving you. She never held any rancor to her father. Ever since I left home, I have used my time to honor your name. What else do you wish for me to say to you to show my affection and love? Elvidius Lucius shed copious tears, enveloping his beloved daughter in a loving, indescribable look. She knelt down and prayed aloud. With tears of love and gratitude to the Almighty, she closed his eyes in their final sleep, observing that the tribune's face was now hallowed in peace and serenity. The story didn't end here. Many, many, many years go by. Celia, Brother Marino gets sick of living in the outdoors, very harsh situations. So she passed away. The monks, the people of the town, the people in the surroundings mourn her. The monks prepare her body for the funeral, and they discover the truth. The abbot couldn't believe, and the abbot let the innkeeper know the true identity of Brother Marino and how Brother Marino never defended himself against the blame, against the lie. She always accepted everything with love and kindness. It was a very, very loving funeral with scenes and songs of the monks. And then, in her last breath, she can see the room full of light with all the beloved spirits, the beings that she loved the most, Cyrus, Senor Lucius, her father, her mother, Nestorious. And she goes to a higher plane than everyone else because she was example of true Christianity. Love is the divine plasma enveloping all creation, the very breath of God permeating the universe. This is by Emmanuel in the book Thought and Life. Thank you, everyone, and we are ready for your comments.
Alba, thank you so much. Can you hear me? Alba, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, Leito.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if it was coming out here because I couldn't see any.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that I can't hear you. I don't know.
Okay, 1 second.
And I'm so sorry I went far and beyond in the time. I didn't realize.
I guess I need to change this here. One moment. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so thank you so much for this amazing reminder for some of us and a new story for all of us that you shared here. In times like that we're going through right now, I think it's important for us to illuminate our minds and our hearts with the true exemplification of love, right? And it is truly one of the, I would say, not the best or not the main, or but one of many of stories that we read from Emmanuel, that we read from Spiritism, that exemplifies this idea of love. And I'm glad that you went deep into the stories, into the time as well, because love can be exemplified, and will always be exemplified, no matter the times, no matter the conditions, right? Despite the age, gender, whatever it is, right? Can be exemplified in any time of our life. So I think that this is an amazing reminder, especially again during the times that we're going through, that we're questioning ourselves, our surroundings, in terms, where's the love, right? It's there. So thank you. I would like to, say thank you for all of those who followed us and connect with us in this moment. And we do have a couple questions here. I do have one which I would like to start. Uh, as since this is something that you mentioned in the beginning, you mentioned that there is the book 2,000 years ago and then 50 years after, right? Um, One question that I would actually like to pose to, so that you can explain everyone, um, is that do we have to read one to read the other? Since in a way this is a sequence, does it make
No,
sense just to read the 50 years after?
no, really, no. And actually, there are four books, isn't it? 2,000 years ago, 50 years later or after, and then uh, hold on, because I'm not saying this in sequence. There is the poem Stephen and the Hail Christ, and the four of them they can be read independently. Mhm.
Perfect, thank you. I would like also to make a comment here that Daniel, a comment that Daniel brought to us saying, I am curious to know if Celia is the same character spirit as Alcyone in the book Renunciation.
Oh, Daniel. I don't know at the moment. I don't know if she came back. I don't have that very fresh in my memory, to tell you the truth, but it's very likely that she was Alcyone in Renunciation, yes, because the personality is very similar.
Very well, thank you, Alba. I am not sure either, but that's something that we can take it aside and do that research as well.
Yeah.
But in any case, we'll continue with a comment here by Yasko saying, very interesting to realize that before the great trials, Celia was granted with spiritual tools, Christ's teachings, to help to endure her difficult enlightening journey with the support from her grandfather. It makes me wonder about our trial, our guardian angels, in our encounter with Spiritism.
To say, Jasko, you comment, yes, the whole purpose for us bringing the Celia's story, it was to see that she is no, she wasn't a privileged spirit. She is a spirit like us, and all of us. We have our spiritual guides or guardian angels, and if we are open enough and we are connected enough with our very own spirituality, we will find these inspirations and how Spiritism teachings is helping us to endure these transitional times. Yeah.
Thank you, Alba. And then I have Abby saying, wow, thank you, Abita, for this
Mhm.
lovely message. And for all of us, I mean, it's truly an exemplification of love, as we have mentioned here. The other question that, question and comment, or really a comment, excuse me, from Paula is when she says, another highly evolved woman and men redeeming themselves before they cross over. Also, the of renunciation, right?
Yes,
And what I
Paula.
would add as well, I think the she touches on a very interesting point here because it is through renunciation and selflessness, right? That at least to me, that she's able to connect with these higher minds and
Mm-hmm.
stay connected with them. I think that it's through this act that she establishes this perfect connection with the higher minds, the guides, and everything. So
Selfless sacrifice.
thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then here we have Yasko saying, "Thank you, Yasko. I heard yes, she came as Alcyone, and also she was veneranda
Uh-huh.
and also
Veneranda no solar.
and,
Yes.
and also
Thank
so
you, Yasko.
thanks for clarifying that." Alba, I know you spoke quite a bit, and you really gave us this amazing. I know it's a little bit lengthy, but hey, again, the way I see is this, right? Yes, I mean, we usually try to keep this at 1 hour, the tops 1 hour and a half. But if we weren't here, what we would be doing? And I know all of us were busy, right? All of us we are, have many things to do. But instead of spending time elsewhere, I'm glad that for those who stayed with us or who will be watching us later, they are here with us, and I think this is an amazing way to spend time together and enlighten ourselves. It's a great way as well, as we said at the beginning, that an invitation for us to read the book, right? To read this amazing story and exemplification of love. Get out of our selves comfortable zone and try
Mm-hmm.
to do some of these things. So, with no further words, I would like to pass the word back to you to say your final words and to invite you to say the final prayer too, please.
Sure. As a final word, love is the answer. If we have doubts, if we're in distress, whatever situation we are going through, love is the answer. So let us all together keep our minds and hearts united in this blessed moment, and let us be grateful with the high evolved spirituality. Let us be grateful with Emmanuel and Chico Xavier, who brought to us this example of selflessness, sacrifice, and renunciation. We are thankful because we know that going to our terrestrial trials, we are not alone and we are not forsaken. May the love of the Father, Mother God shower us, enveloping us, and may His or her love heal our planet, especially our brothers and sisters that are suffering the horrors of wars and other situations. We feel your love and we are grateful, and so be it.